My name is Lorraine Lopez, and I was born and raised in Saguache. And I'm a Garcia. I'm married to Lopez. In our family, there were 9 boys and 3 girls. There were 12 children in our family. And Pete's older sister. We grew up in Saguache most of our lives, and Pete there was the very youngest one.
Hi, I'm Raymond Garcia. I'm Pete's older brother, and Pete, I'm about 10, 11 years older than Pete. He did some good work even then for drawing animals and stuff on sketches that he made, and like I said, I live in California, and I left here kind of about around 1963.
Well, I know that my brother would tell me stories. Pete would tell me stories about going to the mountains and helping Dad with the sheep, because they'd have to take him from where, Raymond?
From here to the mountains up here, maybe be up above Cochetopo. In the wintertime that you guys would go to Kirby. At that time, we were still here, and so you'd spend the winters there, because that's where Dad and Mom were together most of the time when Dad was in town, because he was gone from, I'd say June till October up in the mountains, and we wouldn't see Dad, so Mom was the boss. She ran the household, and she did a great job, And
then I left. I did my thing in school. So did my brother Pete, and so did my brother Tommy, and we all, really left the Saguache. They went into the city. Pete went into the Navy, and I went into to the city and saw the city life.
You spend a little time schooling in San Diego and spent a little time there, but he was mostly at the base, and then he realized what he wanted to do, probably already at that age.
Pete wanted to come. He came home from the Navy. He stayed here, and I think that's where Pete really. He had taken a class in Denver, art class, and I think he just came home and started collecting what he was going to collect to start whatever his eyes saw. And it was a lot of, I remember him starting painting with oils and then acrylics. Then he started in on carving.
Pete gave me that picture of Jesus there when I come from California one time, and I know that's probably one of the first ones he had done.
And he was a self-taught artist. He just, he saw things that nobody really could see. He was just, and I would look at his stuff and I would say, well, show me, can I help? Can I do some of the, one art piece in this, Virgen de Guadalupe. He had started, didn't finish it, and I looked at him and I said, can I finish this for you? He says, if you want to. I says, well, will you do all the markings, put all the markings in there for me? He looked at me and says, no, only your eye can do that. So, and that's how he felt about everything that he saw. People had to see it in their own way. And that's how he became creative with what he did.
Hi, my name's Maria Lopez. I'm Pete Garcia's niece. I'm Lorraine Lopez's daughter. I very much believe that, them growing up and being very impoverished created a lot of ingenuity for them, for all of them. I think for me as a kid, I got to see the evolution of my uncle. I would see him start something. I would see him really be grounded in what he really valued, which was Mother Earth, and he really believed in the environment. He was in the Forest Service, and so that was a big deal for him, and he loved wildlife. He spent his time there. He loved working with nature.
It's very hard to compete with Pete. Pete could outdraw you, and we went fishing and hunting together, and he knew the area very well, and he'd take us to the places he'd seen animals and deer or elk or whatever we were hunting. And he kind of really showed me how to hunt, really too, myself being his older brother. And so we had a good time.
We would come and it would almost be like magical because you'd come and you'd see just a piece of wood, and then you'd see him take that wood, and then he would sand it, and it would take a long time, and then he would draw stuff out. You could even still kind of sometimes see the pencil in some of his artwork.
He was always on one of his projects that he was doing, art and stuff, and he'd show off art when he started it, and it wasn't quite finished. When I come back the next time, it might have been finished, and he had it complete, and it was a good job that he did. He always was good at drawing, and his friends and stuff. I guess he just got along with everybody. At an age of about 15 or so, I guess they moved to Denver, and I didn't see his work or anything about him when he was here in Saguache in high school or grade school or whatever it is, but he was mostly very kind of quiet, and he started going out working for the Forest Service, and he'd see a lot of things that he thought were very nice, and he'd draw some of that stuff and show us on a piece of paper, and then he'd look for stuff to work on when he was out in the Forest Service, and he'd find some good stuff, as you can well see. Okay, this one here, Pete always was a good arrowhead man and hunting and everything, and this one he got the best that he could find, the ones that he found, and made these designs, really good looking ones, and they're the best that he had to make this one. We'd go arrowheading, and Pete and Babe, which was my other brother, were better look at arrowheads. I was always jealous of them because they'd find the gooder ones, I'd find the pieces, but he still has a lot of them at home that are still laying there that I don't know how many he has, and these are his very best.
These three horses, there's a story, there's a painting. He saw this painting and he was really drawn to it, and the painting is actually very scary. it's kind of scary. This does not look as intense as that painting, but that was the inspiration of this, and it was something that he really, really, really was drawn to, and I think it's because he struggled his life. His life was not easy. My Uncle Pete did keep to himself, and he was a really strong guy who didn't ask for a lot of help. He was a man of few words, but he really worked really hard, and he expected that of other people. So that's kind of how I grew up, and I think, seeing my mom and my Uncle Raymond and what they're drawn to, and to see the pride of, my Uncle Pete and what he did, and I'm so proud of what they do too, and their family.
This bucko Pete gave me about, I'd say 15 years ago or so. I come in here and he'd already started doing it, and he showed me just part of it, and I guess he kind of looked at me and saw that I really liked it, so I come back next summer, the next following summer, and Pete had this up there. He gave it to me, and I really enjoy the piece. Whenever he gave something, he gave it with his heart, so we're going to keep it. Hopefully my kids will enjoy and keep it also, Amazing what kind of work he did, what kind of artist he was, and I think it's a very nice piece.
Pete was a very intelligent person. He really was very private man, and he did a lot of artistic ideas. They would run through his head, but really to put them into practice, he'd go outdoors, sit outdoors for many hours, do carvings. He carved many statues. He would paint, go and just set him in a place. There was no studio anywhere he thought of at that time to paint. That's what he would do. He loved the outdoors. That's where he'd go a lot out to arrowhead hunt. Just walk those mountains. This was when he would sit in my kitchen, look out the window, and do a picture of the Curtis's place, because I loved it, and I really do believe that Pete drew this picture for me. And this was done about 2 years ago. I just remember him just little pieces, and he would just barely tap on it, and it would start a creation. It was amazing to watch him work on this. It took him, I'm not sure how many years it took, but it must have been when I was doing my thing with my married life, my children, and my family. But when I came home, it wasn't completely done, but he was still working on it. And when I saw the end product, it was like unbelievable. The first time I saw it is when he had, I think it was Cinco de Mayo, the first year of Cinco de Mayo, which has been about 3 years ago, that I convinced him to go and show his pieces at the Cinco de Mayo festival, and he did. I mean, I was just so pleased with him, and this is one of the pieces that was there. So he had finished it by then. This piece here, I found this piece in Pete's yard 2 weeks ago. I was cleaning the yard and I saw it and I started rolling and I rolled and rolled, and all of a sudden it's face up and I see a face and I said, oh my gosh, look at this beautiful piece that Pete had hidden somewhere in his yard. When Pete was very sick, we were living in Morrison, and Pete would sit out in front of my son's house, and he started just acrylics and pull out his paint brushes and his paints out, and he started drawing this, and it was, well, he had first taken a picture, and I remember we had brought it from Denver, and we were going to the senior citizen. That's when Pete really got well, feeling better. And he started this. And this here painting was one where he visualized what it would be like in the past with this kind of scenery, because he had started painting some teepees. So this is a pretty recent one. Now this one here is one where Pete was in the hospital at St. Luke's, and he had a real tall window, and he could look out the window, and I had taken him some colored pencils and artwork, and within a week or two, this is what he had created. I think that's such a beautiful piece.
I never asked him for any of these things. He voluntarily gave them to me. He wanted to give you something that he thought you would enjoy, and that's true. They're all things. Some of those other things I wish I had too, but I understand they got to be spread out so they can see not just one person owning all of them. They can see what Pete was like and what he did.
I have a question about that creativeness, because I hear how you guys, had such good work ethic, and you all have been so successful in your lives and really raised good families. Do you think growing up here and having, to struggle and find things and make things, kind of maybe helped frame Uncle Pete's creativity? Because he could find something and turn it into something, and I really think a lot about that, and I see you guys as our role models. And you guys went in a different way, but you made it work, and I always think it has something to do with Saguache and Grandma and Grandpa.
Well, the life, and then we had no choice on it. The lifestyle was what made our character. It was a family who came together and worked together. All the things that you need to do to survive. We were responsible. We became responsible. I don't know what to say. Only that it was a life that we had to live.
This is one of my favorite pieces. I just think it speaks a lot to how Uncle Pete was. You know, he had these antlers and he was always around bone, but he never wasted anything. And I think that's what our family really did a lot of. They really taught us to use every piece, to not waste anything, to be very considerate. But this piece really reflects my uncle. He could look at an antler and be like, I'm gonna make an eagle. And I very much think that that eagle that my mom talked about earlier in this piece, there was something about his spirit that was connected to the eagle. You know, they kind of roam big lands, they're kind of alone, they, you know, have to work hard to, you know, get their food, and, you know, just a really proud man. I'm really drawn to that. When you go through and you see his work, there are some pieces that aren't finished. When we look at that piece out his window, he was in a hospital, we were visiting him there, it was not pleasant. And he found a window and he looked out of it and he saw the beauty. And I think that really talks a lot about how I want to remember my Uncle Pete. Is he was a real fighter and he really fought cancer and he really fought hard, but even through those times he was able to find beauty. And I just wish, you know, that he could have finished some of the things that the cancer didn't allow him to finish, but he left us with a lot of beauty here, and I'm really grateful for that, and I'm grateful for you guys for giving us the chance to talk about it and document it and display his work so prominently. It really means a lot.
He just took his time and was always good at what he did.
They're just so, I think, perfect. I think they're just right on.